That was the case for a lot of these drivers. So being able to get clean racetrack and be able to put competitive race laps together, didn't have a whole lot of it heading into tonight.
These drivers have been waiting quite some time for this, the start of a grueling stretch for the Pro Late Models. Here comes Connor Zilisch and Katie Hettinger. We are kicking off the Tough Shed 250 with the Pro Late Models at Hickory. Oh, Hettinger bounces off the wall as he exits turn 2 on the first lap. That car evidently no worse for the wear, but she got way wide on the exit of turn number 2 and definitely caught the concrete on corner exit. Now loses a spot to Matt Craig.
We'll see if Hettinger can rebound right there, trying to use that outside lane. We know these Pro Late Models carry so much speed through the center of the corner. It's the main reason why they're faster than many of the late model stocks that you'll see running here tonight. So Hettinger able to slot her way down into second, and in a couple of cars. Well, I'm really interested to see. We saw it work in the late model stocks. Is now Hettinger. More contact into the wall on the front straightaway.
Then comes off the fence to get into the side of Austin McDonald. Now Ashton Higgins up to the backside of Hettinger's Chevrolet. While another car, Isabella Robusto, slides that 28 to the inside of Hettinger as they come off turn 4. Not the start that Katie Hettinger was hoping for. She finds a place in line between Robusto and Higgins in the 9. And now it is Higgins who is under fire while the battle for the lead intensifies.
Well, and I think we'll have to follow up. I think Hettinger had a little bit of smoke there, perhaps a tire rub as a result of that contact with the outside wall. But looking up front, we talked about Brent Cruz, somebody that could definitely go up and win this race a little bit earlier. And boy, does his car cut through the center of the corner very well. He may be challenging here in short order with Connor Zilisch for the race lead.
These two drivers started off their careers in similar ways, bouncing through karting ranks on a national scale. Now they find themselves side by side at America's most famous short track. Cruz to the bottom, Zilisch up top, door to door in turn 1 for the lead. Cruz pokes out in front, but Zilisch fights back.
That he does is a little bit of contact made there into turn number 3. No harm, no foul, though. Zilisch will relinquish the race lead. 39 laps to go. Already one lead change here at Hickory Motor Speedway tonight. Brent Cruz leading the pack.
There's not a lot of history when it comes to Pro Late Model competition under the Cars Tour banner. Last year, 2 races here, William Sawalich waxed the field in back-to-back races. That may be one of the first lead changes we've ever seen in Pro Late Model competition. After Sawalich swept him a year ago, Cruz is not going to allow Zilisch a chance to do the same. Matt Craig, 3rd in the 54, just behind the 15H of Hopkins. As the pack is kind of broken up in about 3 different 2-car tandems. Trouble, turn 4. One car has spun on the 4th corner, and it will slow the field just 10 laps in. And that is the number 27 of Lee Tissett, who is gone for a slide. Tissett, who is someone, as we highlighted in our qualifying coverage, has had much success here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Back when this series, which was kind of planted, or I should say the seeds were watered with what was the remnants of the old Pro Cup series back in the day, Tissett is a Pro Cup winner here. Back in October of 2000, brought the Jeff's Auto Sales Partnership, which has been a longtime supporter of the Hickory Motor Speedway back here. However, Tissett, in the opening go-around, had some problems to slow the field here just 9 laps in, but Blake, there was a whole lot going on there at the beginning, especially with that number 81 car of Katie Hettinger. We might have an opportunity here to kind of see how the beginning of her race started off.
Yeah, we'll see if we can. And again, throughout the field, most of the field was double wide. This is looking back at lap number 1, Katie Hettinger, and no contact with that 24 Brent Cruz, as she just got a little bit wide and got a little bit throttle happy there off the corner, pushed up into the outside wall. That is the initial contact that she had. Now on the front straightaway, you can see as she was moving up the racetrack, you can see the number 9 of Ashton Higgins, who gets put into the outside retaining wall here, just about at the flag stand here at Hickory Motor Speedway. So a couple of early incidents involving some of our key contenders and qualifiers who put themselves up in the top 5 at the front of the field.
That's going to re-rack the field here a little bit. We saw the top 6 kind of break up into groups of 2, 3 groups of 2 that is, with Cruz and Zilisch still kind of locked together. The veterans and Matt Craig and Mike Hopkins kind of knotted together. And then just behind them, Austin McDonald was able to hold down what was the 5th spot with another white car behind him, the number 28 of Isabella Robusto. They all kind of seem knotted together. Now this is going to be the first chance for us to see tonight, first time in pro late model competition, the choose cone.
Yes.
This is something that we debuted at Florence with the late model stocks. First time we're going to see it here in the pros. And this could have a big impact on how the next restart unfolds, especially if you got a car in front of you on the outside lane that washes up into the concrete like Hettinger did on the start.
Well, and I think for the late model stocks, yes, we had a choose cone. Yes, it was new for the car store. When you talk a lot of the competitors, they had raced in enough competitions or weekly races at different local short tracks around the area where the choose cone wasn't necessarily a new concept to those drivers. You turn it over here to the pro late models, though, a much younger crowd. That this likely may be some of the first racing that a lot of these drivers have had with this choose cone, and particularly in a field that is probably as competitive as they have run in. I think it's more of a first and more of a surprise for these drivers, as you can see how they file in. You can see Zilish electing to take the top, and I think especially here at Hickory here, Eric, you're not going to see a ton of surprises where that outside lane is really not as much of a detriment as some of the tracks we'll go to. I think at Ace, that'll be the first track we really go to where that choose cone is going to be really interesting to watch. How many rows do you sacrifice to perhaps try to get the favorite bottom lane? But not so much the case here at Hickory.
You do have a chance if you have to line up on the outside. That's why many drivers will elect to do so if they're running in an even number position, as most of the top 10 did. We mentioned Zilish second, Hopkins in fourth, Robusto sixth. They will be the first 3 cars on the outside lane. Cruz in the 24, Matt Craig in the 54, Austin McDonald in the 13. Take you through your first 3 cars on the bottom side of this ensuing restart. Again, green flag laps only will be counting, so 91 laps still to go with the top 2. As Blake mentioned, 1 lead change already. I think we are perhaps in store for several more to work our way through these remaining 91 laps. Into the KRC Power Steering restart zone they come. It will be Brent Cruz, the control car, to get us back underway with the Pro Late models at Hickory. And Zilish gets a great launch on the outside. Let's see if that sticks in 1 and 2 as Cruz tries to fight back on the bottom. On the back straightaway they go. Restart is clear. Zilish with a half a car length advantage. Cruz trying to muscle his way back down low.
And while one Rackley War car tries to go to the front of the field, I believe it was the other in Dawson Sutton a little bit further on back that may have had almost the exact same situation we saw with Katie Hettinger. Scraped the outside wall off the exit of turn 2, though. Brent Cruz up the racetrack, and Zilish still trying to hang on. And oh, by the way, Mike Hopkins is here, Eric. He was pretty good the last time we were out at Southern National.
Hopkins lurking. While these 2 young guns go at it, there may already be a donut on the right side of Brent Cruz, number 24 car. There is, just behind the exhaust, as he washes a little bit wide there on corner entry, trying to force his way up alongside at least to get door handle to door handle with Zilish. Now he runs him a little bit wide in 3 and 4.
And it looks like Cruz finally able to complete that pass, or at least I thought so for a moment. Zilish able to try and slot in line, and that he is going to do in front of Mike Hopkins. So Brent Cruz, I tell you what, did a nice job trying to hold off Zilish right there, using all the racetrack he could on the bottom to try to make that move work. And that'll be an interesting talking point throughout the night. We know at Florence we had a lot of rain there on race day as well. Top lane kind of got washed off. Not as a lot of rubber on the racetrack, somewhat of the same conditions here, but I think Hickory much more willing to kind of run on that outside lane, at least early in this race. And this Pro Late field will certainly put a lot of rubber down, as you see the entry we were talking about earlier, the other Rackley War Chevrolet, Dawson Sutton on the inside of Ashton Higgins, who had contact with K.E. Hettinger, who just runs right behind him.
I believe Ashton Higgins may have caught the wall a couple of laps ago on the backstretch. Almost did it there again as he leaves the door open on the inside for Hettinger to try to get back up towards that outside front row starting spot she had when they came to the green. Just in front of these 2 cars. Oh, we got a crash. Turn 4 yet again. This time a couple more cars are involved than the first time around. Tissot was one of them. That's Rusty Skews backing away, and the Top Gun Motorsports number 8 and Logan Jones in the 77 will complete the carnage in the 4th corner. Second time tonight we've seen Lee Tissot involved in one of the caution flags to slow this race. This one coming with about 84 laps still to go in this contest. Brent Cruz and Connor Zilisch putting on a very spirited fight at the head of the pack. Forward to see what this next upcoming restart they have in store as far as these two and the rest of the field, because the racing has been intense since the word go.
That it has, and these cars just carry so much speed around this racetrack, and they just look like they're absolutely flying around here. You can see two of those cars and the mention caution that we just had, and the 77 and car number 8 making their way down to the pit lane, and Rusty Skews and Logan Jones. So, of course, their crews will get to work on those cars and see if they can't try to fix them back up. You also have another car pulling down, and Justin Whitaker. Looks like he will also bring that car to the attention of his crew. But as you mentioned, Brent Cruz up front, Connor Zilisch in second. Hopkins has already found his way up into that third position. But, you know, one thing I wanted to point out looking at that last run, and I think when we took a look at that replay, you could really see some of the damage that Katie Hettinger had, and just seems as though that car is really tight after that contact with the outside wall, as she fell a little bit further back into the top 10 looking, and obviously started tight, or at least was on that opening lap, and I think that contact certainly not helping the handling of that race car.
And you have to think, I'm flashing back to when we heard from James Pike pre-race. He talked about how elevated the moods were, especially after they elected to change the power plant in that car. And you think you're about to begin this race on the front row, clear track ahead of you essentially, and you get 2 corners in, and you've got a bit of a wounded hot rod at that point. So for Hettinger, wouldn't rule her out just yet, especially if this race continues to trend towards a bit of an increase in physicality, if you will, with Hettinger still inside the top 10, holding down that 10th spot prior to the choose cone, which is coming out this time by. So we'll see if Cruz does elect to take the inside this time by, as he did on the last restart, while Connor Zilisch elected to go topside and almost was able to get the lead away from Cruz. They traded a little bit of paint. The second verse will, in fact, be the same as the first. As a matter of fact, Blake, as you mentioned, it seems as though we're pretty much doubling them up here for the most part. Everybody's kind of selecting their position in the running order as far as a restart lineup.
Well, and again, that's just a result of what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where Hickory really lends itself to, yeah, the bottom may preferred at times, but that outside lane can also be as good. And, you know, looking at a lot of kind of replays of the last couple of years with the Car Store Pro late models and the late model stocks, that outside lane really seems to be the place where good cars can make those moves. And we've seen a lot of races won here by utilizing that second lane here at Hickory. So no shock to see that the choose cone, a formality here. But again, I'm really interested to see once we start moving forward. And even I think Brandon Pierce made a good comment on his Big Time Auto Racing podcast about Wake County Speedway and the new pavement that they have there. And they were talking about everybody kind of choosing the outside lane and how that track has kind of started to race with its new pavement. So I'm excited to see that. But, yeah, certainly going to be changing it up in how these drivers choose throughout the many types of racetrack that we go to here in their cars.
The character of the Hickory Motor Speedway is what makes coming here twice a year so much fun. Cruz and Zilisch bring us back into the KRC Power Steering restart zone. Cruz already into the side of Zilisch as they tussle for the lead in turn 1. Washed up a little bit there and gave the right side door to Zilisch, and we're not done yet.
I'll tell you what, Cruz is really taking some liberties there with that entry, as he's really arcing pretty wide for running there on the bottom, having a car to his outside. Is Zilisch trying to get and find a way underneath him? He's not able to do it. Hawkins will clear for third, and further on back you see Matt Craig and Isabella Robusto making her presence felt, somebody who has a ton of experience here at Hickory Motor Speedway. No shock to see that she has moved up a couple of positions and may have notched one more as she gets into turn 4, and indeed she does.
We talked about some of the Trans Am TA2 success that Brent Cruz, Connor Zilisch have had so far this season. Let's not forget Isabella Robusto in that 28 car She's got about 69 to 70 races or so on her schedule for this year. Also doing some GT sports car racing of her own in the Toyota development pipeline, as we got double wide action all throughout the pack. There's the number 44 making his first start of the season, one of the 44s in the field. That one is that of Michael Litchfield, who is trying to make a move. Also, Tristan McKee after the spin in qualifying. And unfortunately, Blake, Hettinger keeps falling back. Big crash for George Phillips.
Just a small checkup when all those cars were running in line, started all of that, and George Phillips, who was well behind, looks like he gets the worst end of it, but several cars with some significant damage. George Phillips there, you can see some smoke starting to billow out, and unfortunate for Phillips, who was fast, ran into a couple of incidents at Southern National Motorsports Park, and certainly here at Hickory, it's amazing how fast that wreck had. Oh yeah, you can see that car is not going to be making any more laps here tonight.
Definitely knocked the radiator out of it. Did that of Phillips, who represents a Setzer Racing and Development team. In fact, saw Dennis Setzer around here earlier. He's the one who went and got the 4 race tires. And Kyle Campbell. We talked about him as he joined Caden Quapple as 2 of the drivers who were semi-finalists in the 2023 Alan Kowicki Driver Development Program. Unfortunately, did not make it to that final round, at least this year. And I had a very long and extensive conversation with Kyle, and he said the one thing he wanted to avoid was this. Heartbreaking for that small family-operated team. They were going to try to make all the races. They got a lot of work to do to get that car ready for Ace, that's for sure. Yeah,
and, that was a theme really talking to anybody in the pit area these last couple of days is, yes, we had about a month of a break after Florence for the late model stocks. We had even a longer break if you're part of this pro late model class, but particularly for these family-run teams, it is hard to run into an issue at this portion of the schedule where so many races are packed into this next month. And for more, we're going to toss it to James Pike down on pit road.
I've got Kyle Campbell here. Kyle, what happened from your perspective coming out of turn 4?
I didn't even see a wreck. I was trying to get by the 6 on the top, and they just stopped. Nothing I could have done. It sucks. We're a single-family team. I'm going to be out for a while. Hopefully we can get it fixed, but it's going to be tough. We're doing all we can, but they stopped in front of me. Nothing I could do.
A really tough break for Kyle Campbell, who does have a significant amount of damage on the front end of his car that he's going to have to repair.
Blake, I'll tell you, we talk about storylines. Each driver in the field is a representative of several storylines as to how they get here, who supports them, how it happens, and to see that young man and he mentioned family-owned team, it's pretty much him and his dad for the most part, being swept up in this chain reaction that saw about 4 cars stack up. Hettinger, perhaps one of the first ones to get a little bit of a nudge from behind by Litchfield. Here it is again. In fact, that's Caden Quapple down on the inside of the apron of the racetrack. Suggs was next in line, then Litchfield. Batten gets really sideways, and in the accordion, Phillips gets sent to the outside wall, with Campbell pretty much ending up well underneath the fuel cell of Phillips' car.
Yeah, you take one more look. Hettinger has a car to her inside, and she's running the yellow line, so there's nowhere for Quapple to go. Great job by Brett Suggs to check up for that accident, but you can see just further back, there's no time to react. And when you think about where the spotters are typically here at Hickory Motor Speedway, and I'm looking out kind of to the left of the broadcast booth here, they're spotting off of the exit of turn 4 here in the grandstands. That would be the most difficult place for where that wreck happened to try and call out something happening directly in front of you. And even so, I think Kyle Campbell said it best. Even if you had a spotter who was right on it, there was almost no time to react to that one.
The unfortunate irony in that is that Kyle is very good friends with both Carson and Caden Quapple, who Caden was one of the cars where the initial contact developed, but that is as much of a racing incident as you will find. It's a short track accordion effect where unfortunately at some point the energy had to be dispersed somewhere, and it was between Campbell 03 and Phillips 6. Now, keep in mind, George Phillips, he came into the night 14th in championship point standings, and it looks like he may be one of the first few cars out of this race. And that is going to be something that is going to put that team into a bit of a hole. But as you see, the cleanup continues here on the main straightaway. We're going to step aside. We'll be right back with more Pro Late Model Racing from Hickory next. As you can see, the choose cone is out as we are back here at the Hickory Motor Speedway, wrapping up what is already our third caution flag in the pro late model portion of the Tough Shed 250 here, the second pro late model race of the season, while the third late model stock event is waiting in the wings and in the on-deck circle. And so far, it has been a physical contest in the first 20 laps of this race. We saw a caution for a single car spin involving Lee Tissett, and a three-car tangle with Tissett, Logan Jones, and Rusty Skews. And the most recent has been the most devastating thus far, with George Phillips in the Setzer Racing Development 6, and Kyle Campbell in his family-owned 03 sustaining terminal damage in a stack-up that happened off turn 4 as we're a lap away from the restart.
Golly, and I know we had a little bit of a break, but man, I mean, my heart just goes out to Kyle Campbell. Watching that interview was so tough, and it shows you how much this matters to all of these drivers, all of these teams. They put so much time in to prepare for these races, and to have something like this happen, and you can see he knows that the next couple weeks, months, may not be able to get out to the racetrack, and that's the one thing a racer wants to do more than anything.
Well, that may be the agony of defeat. The thrill of victory is 80 laps away. Cruz on the inside in the 24. Zilish topside in the 25. These two have touched several times the last couple of restarts. Will the trend continue as Cruz tries to settle that car on the bottom? They may have made a little contact there, door to door at the line.
These two have raced so close and yet haven't really crossed that line. Zilic holding him down for all he's worth, and Brent Cruz trying to once again kind of arc out into the corner, trying to hold Zilic at bay.
All the while on that restart, Isabella Robusto up to third, waiting in the wings if something should happen with these two as they almost lock together off the second corner. Cruz cements the lead, Zilic in second, and he must be red hot.
He has to be red hot, but I tell you, one driver who was trying to make their way forward, and oh, by the way, side-by-side battle for the lead once again. So we'll see how these two drivers can try and, Silish, a little bit of contact right there with Brent Cruz, as now he has the bottom lane, which we'll see if that 25 can try to make his way by that 24 car.
Now the roles are reversed. It's Zilish on the inside. He was able to make the top side work a couple of times so far today, up into the door of Cruz. They almost catch the concrete as that to the 24 car. And now it's Zilish trying to fade about a quarter to a half a lane up to open the door for Robusto coming through for second.
I was about to say one car that is red hot in a good way is probably Mike Hopkins, because he is driving up to these leaders, probably loves what he sees in front of him. But Isabella Robusto able to get by Brent Cruz to second. This is her first time in a pro late model here at Hickory. She's run so much at this racetrack, but never in a pro late model. But I gotta say, she's taken to it pretty well.
Had a great start to her season with a top 10 finish at Southern National, and trying to gain some momentum on the pro late model side and hope that it parlays to success in the late model stock a little bit later on tonight. Hopkins, as you mentioned, Blake, having a peek on Cruz for third spot. Robusto about a car length off of Zilish, your leader. That battle for the lead is intense. Battle for third is intense. This is some good racing.
Yes, it is. And isn't it interesting that we find our two drivers who will also be competing in the late model stocks are running 1-2 in this race? Silish and Robusto have a lot more racing to look forward to, but they want a checkered flag here in this pro late model portion. And I got to say, Robusto's car looking awfully good right here, able to cut through the center of the corner very well. But again, she knows. She's been here at Hickory a time or two before. She knows exactly where to try to set up Connor Zilish, who may not have quite as much experience at this racetrack, but is yet still a race winner in late model stock car competition in the weekly racing series here at Hickory.
We see these cars bouncing oftentimes violently through some of the characteristics that make this racetrack so much fun. This track opened back in 1951, but it was as a half-mile dirt track. Went through some reconfiguration, some paving, and the scale at which you see today was established back in 1970. There's been a lot of bumps. There's been a lot of repairs made. You can see the different colors in asphalt as the drivers work their way down the backstretch, and it creates a lot of unique spots where in these pro late models, you got to keep these cars wound up, and it almost forces you or dares you to try to make yourself go through some of the most abrasive parts of this racetrack as fast as you can, or else be caught out by the car behind you.
And again, it has not been paved since then. You can see the remnants of it, all the just character that this place has that we talk about. You can see the concrete patches that they've even put in this racetrack to try and preserve it. There's one on the front straightaway that's pretty much your lifting point. Maybe not if you're in a pro late model, but maybe in a late model stock you want to lift just past that entering turn number 1. But it's what drivers love about this racetrack. Is now Mike Hopkins. You can see he moves by Brent Cruz. That's for the 3rd position.
Hopkins is driving like he's got a plane to catch, and in fact he does tomorrow morning. Up to 3rd out of Herman, Maine. We recall the success that Hopkins has had. He's not the only 15 in the field, however. There's several of them. One of them is in your picture there in Brett Suggs, the number 15 car. And Blake, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but that team is reeling with a very unexpected and tragic loss amongst their camp. And as he gets a little bit of a fender rub there from Joshua Horniman, Suggs is racing with a lot of motivation tonight.
Yes, he is. I was pulling up to the Speedway here, parked next to him, was happy to get out, and said, "Hey, man, how are you doing?" And unfortunately, he had a nameplate right next to him, and Chris Nolte, unfortunately one of his crew members that passed away yesterday. It was a part of his crew the last time he ran a pro late model here at Hickory Motor Speedway. So Brett Suggs racing with a heavy heart, but you know what? I think he'd be a little happy that he was able to check up for that last incident. As you can see now, he goes side by side after maybe brushing the wall there off of turn 2.
Yeah, caught the wall ever so slightly there, which will take him out of the 15 spot, losing a spot there to Joshua Horniman in the 43, as well as that number 5B. Oh, look out, Tissot. What a save! Bounced off the left side door of Suggs, and now he's got Luke Morey up to his inside.
Tell you what, Tissot has had a long night here at Hickory, but
eventful.
Again, he's keeping himself in it, though. What a fantastic save that was.
Up in the front of the pack, race leaders in lap traffic. That's Dylan Garner, who has just gone a lap down. Robusto closing up here as we inch closer to the iRacing halfway point of this race. Lap 50. There'll be a halfway award that will be up for grabs for both the late model stocks. That'll be at the middle of their 150 lapper. Here in this 100 lapper for the pros, it's in 7 laps time. And right now, Robusto is starting to challenge Zilish not only for that lead, but for that iRacing halfway money.
Again, knowing that competition caution may be around the corner if we continue to go here, how aggressive do you want to get in this lap traffic, manage your track position? These top 2 have a little bit of a gap that is being managed right now over Mike Hopkins, but yet you look in front of you and you have an opportunity, if you're Robusto, to try and take advantage, maybe take control of the race lead. And once we get back to the KRC Power Steering restart zone, be able to have control of that restart.
We could see Lee Tissot, who is one of the cars who was involved in a couple of the cautions tonight, alongside of Rusty Skews, right in front of the leaders. Justin Whitaker also in front as Robusto turns Zilish off of turn number 4. Zilish may have lifted momentarily as he caught the tail end of the lead lap, and Robusto turns Connor Zilish out of the race lead.
And I tell you what, he got on the brakes quickly, and thank goodness, because I thought that car was headed right towards the very tail end of that pit road wall. And not only if he does that, he bounces back into traffic. Who knows what could have happened? So great reaction there, quick reaction by Zilish, keeps that car out of harm's way, and he comes back right on the racetrack, right in front of Isabella Robusto.
We talked about Katie Hettinger and how her positioning on the front row and the energy that was behind her going into this race. We heard from Connor Zilish after he won the Mahle Pole Award earlier, and he sounded eager and ready to strap in and do battle. And just like that, the chance at a victory may not be out the window, but it has certainly gotten much more difficult after racing for the lead had gone bad off of turn number 4, just a handful of laps shy of halfway, and a handful of laps shy from what would have been the first competition caution of the night.
And our cameras caught it live. I think you made a great point. It was more of the lap traffic and not necessarily knowing where they were going to go. And this was something that was brought up in the drivers' meeting a little bit earlier in terms of lap traffic. One of the things about Hickory Motor Speedway is that it is a multi-groove racetrack. So some cars will be running in the middle, some cars will be running on the bottom. And having to know where that lap car in front of you is, the one Mitchin that Danny Willard was talking to these drivers about earlier was be predictable. And I think you could see Tissot right there. He was a little sideways off the corner. I think you see Skews react to that. And if you're Robusto, you can't see through those 3 or 4 cars in front of you.
A lot of similarities to this incident and what we saw take out George Phillips and Kyle Campbell. There's Tissot with the slide. Skews lifts. He's already got some damage to the front end of that race car. And also, Zilish was doing the right thing there. I'm pretty sure Spotter must have been telling him, checking up in front of you. He rightfully lifted, so he didn't go into the back of the 8 car. And unfortunately, Robusto, 4th car in line in this little bit of a logjam. There's just no way you could react accordingly to prevent something like that from happening.
And again, I love Zilish's reaction here. You can see him lock it up, turns the wheel to the right. As soon as he knows he can get that momentum rolling backward, rolls a little bit out of the brake. I hate to say it, but wrecking a race car, I guess, is a skill, and I love to see that, he was able to back it up in the proper way to not hit that inside wall.
I've always marveled at a race car driver's ability to take their foot off the brake in a currently crashing race car, trying to figure out what the best way is to make it not have the maximum amount of damage. And you're right, Zilish displayed that at a very young age in a very unfortunate set of circumstances, which, to call a spade, Blake, I will dub that a bit of a racing incident as well. It was very similar to what happened. Unfortunate for Zilish, who is an incredible talent. Hey, for the fans here at Hickory and those of you watching on Flow, if you haven't gotten your money's worth already, which I don't think there's any way that's possible, watching Zilish come from the back of the pack,
yes,
that's going to be worth the price of admission on its own.
55 laps to go, and yet, again, with the pace that his car was running, we saw how quickly they came up on the lap traffic. They won't have a competition caution to look forward to, as that would come in a portion of the race where they will no longer throw it. But, yeah, seeing that number 25 Rackley War Chevrolet try to bust up through this field, it's going to be one heck of a show for the fans here at Hickory.
So organically, Mike Hopkins now finds himself in second. This is the potential for him to line up on the front row for this restart. Although Isabella Robusto has been so quick tonight in her Wilson Motorsports Yahoo number 28. Robusto, as we've talked about, is someone who is certainly getting a lot of wheel time in as far as her slate in 2023. As Blake mentioned, one of 3 drivers running double duty. You'll see her back out here in the late model stocks as well. But behind Isabella is that of the native New Englander, who has so much success every time he can strap into a race car. And he's trying to back up the efforts he had at Southern National with a victory. And don't look now, there's a couple other cars starting to work their way closer to the front. But before we discuss that, let's check in with James Pike, who's standing down trackside. James, this has been a physical one. We still got 55 to go, my friend.
It's been a physical race, and I know you guys have been talking about Isabella Robusto in the booth a lot tonight. I talked to her earlier as well, and I asked her how difficult it was to transition between the late model and the pro late model, and she said, honestly, the horsepower is the biggest thing, and I know I have a good car both on the late model side with Lee Falk and then with Donnie Wilson on the pro late model side, but the pro late model I don't have as much experience in, and I just need to figure out how to grow into it. I think it's safe to say, based off the way tonight's gone, she's found a pretty quick way to grow into it. It helps that she's got tons of experience here at Hickory, 3rd in track points a year ago, but she's finding her way in this pro late model very, very quickly.
Thanks, James. And I will say also, we saw Boo Carlisle being able to put together the vlogs for the Cars Tour, and he got to follow Isabella Robusto around a little bit the last time out for her there. And if you want to learn more, check that out. There'll be another driver, Touring 12 driver, that Boo will be following along. Exceptional work all year long. We love seeing Boo behind the wheel of a race car, which sounds like we might see just that when we get to the Tri-County event on Memorial Day weekend as the field hits the choose cone this time through. But Isabella Robusto elects the bottom. Hopkins topside, Cruz 3rd. McDonald working his way further forward. Matt Gregg will restart in 5th. And the other Rackley War car in the field in Dawson Sutton, now outside of row 3.
And I can't advise you enough, go watch that vlog that Boo's got. It's a great watch this weekend. It'll be Chad McCumbee, the defending winner of this spring race at Hickory Motor Speedway in the late model stocks, that he'll be chronicling. And of course, Chad, a respected and veteran racer in his own right. Should be fun to see the fun that he and Boo have together this weekend.
Field now half a lap away from the restart, 5 laps shy of halfway, and the iRacing halfway bonus that will be up for grabs here. Still much to be decided. Zilish stays on the racetrack after spinning out of the race lead. We will keep you abreast as to his progress back forward as they come into the KRC Power Steering restart zone. Robusto and Hopkins bounce off each other as they come to the line.
Oh, and Cruz, I thought he thought about going 3 wide there into turn number 1, backed out of it just a little bit, but Hopkins nearly into the wall, scraping it, trying to make that outside work, and My goodness, he is running way higher than we've seen any car run tonight, but you know what? He is putting it to good use as he has it at the stripe, and he will clear Robusto off of turn 2.
One of the things we've seen several times tonight is the inside car slide up into the left side door of the car on the top lane. Hopkins made sure he left plenty of real estate between he and Robusto, and he's got the race lead. Side-by-side battle here. McDonald in the white 13 on the outside. Craig in the 54 on the low side, as Robusto may have a fender back inside your leader.
She has a fender inside, but Hopkins is running. Look how high he's running. He's putting his right side tires there on those, the white lines, and he may have gotten a little too high, as now Robusto counters back with her own punch. She takes the race lead back from Mike Hopkins.
The effort to dust off that second and a half or maybe third lane didn't pay off that well there, and he is a lap away from potentially losing the halfway money as Robusto is out in front. Here is Sutton trying to muscle his way down to the inside of McDonald's in the 13, and Luke Baldwin in the black number 15 just behind.
Sutton, one of the biggest movers we've had in this race, started back in the 12th position and finds himself up into the top 5. A little bit of contact there with McDonald, though, entering turn number 3. And boy, McDonald still got a great run off of the corner. And I tell you what, in 3 and 4, I still am marveling at the line that Mike Hopkins took there. I think these drivers put that in the memory bank. Remember that for later on in this race.
One of the other 15s in the field, sandwiched in the middle of that battle. Luke Baldwin, as we got contact behind. Here is Connor Zilish.
Already? Are you kidding me?
Already. Just shy of the top 10 is that of Zilish. He's battling Caden Quapple in the 96 and Ashton Higgins for what would be 10th and 11th respectively, as Quapple makes a little bit of contact there with Higgins off 4.
I mean, he's made up, 7, 8, 9 spots in just a handful of laps. I mean, that is just incredible, the pace that's in that Rackley War car. You can see his teammate a little bit further up in the field in Sutton that we just talked about, getting up into the top 5, and you can see it right there, is battling and yet still making up so much time as he gets by Higgins.
As you mentioned just a short while ago, though, Blake, for Zilish, if he's going to need the help of a yellow, it's going to have to come in an organic fashion. We're going to be beyond the point of that competition caution, being able to bail out the driver at that 25, but his charge forward is not done yet. That is for 10th position on Caden Quapple. Pass made, target locked and set on Hettinger, who's up the road in 9th.
It's incredible how fast that car is. And on the opposite side, and a decent rebound for Hettinger, who just really looked to struggle and looked really tight after making contact. Hasn't quite been able to make her way further forward up into 7th or 8th. A little bit of smoke, I believe that was off the McDonald machine. But Hettinger is just kind of settled in this position right here. But you can see Zilish pulls away by a couple of car lengths in just one lap. That 25 car is just hooked up right now.
Not missing anything up front. The gap from first to second, about 0.3 of a second. As Hettinger in the 81 has a look on the inside of McKee in the 7. Luke Baldwin just in front. This is the beginning of what may be a 3-race deal. Had the support of the Salty Dog Cafe come on board. Of course, Luke, the son of Daytona 500 winning crew chief Tommy Baldwin. And we'll be seeing him for at least a few more races to start off this season. Hopkins starting to close. Cruz about a second plus back in 3rd as the fight for the lead is on with 40 to go.
And boy, does this remind me of Southern National in so many ways, as Hopkins was sizing up the competition, running up in the top 5, and elected to strike at the perfect time, and may have gotten up into the marbles here at Hickory when he had that little incident, but trying to find a way back about Isabella Robusto. We have chronicled Connor Zilich's drive up through the field, and he has one more spot that he's gaining. He finally gets by Katie Hettinger.
There is a possibility that if Zilish could time a bit of a yellow, he may not be out of contention for this one just yet. We're also getting to that point in the race where we are going to see who has been able to maintain their pace throughout the duration of this 100-lapper, and getting off the corner is what's going to be key. Hopkins holds a tighter line on the left side of your screen in the double box to close up ever so closely as we got a spin in turn number 4 right in front of the leaders, and that's Rusty Skews that's going to slow the pace of this field, and Connor Zilish has got to be thrilled about this. Second time tonight, the Volt battery caution has flown with the Top Gun Motorsports number 8 of Skews being in the entanglement of the incident. This one a single car slide for the Ford Mustang. We will get the car righted. It will be a relatively quick caution period before we throw the choose cone back out there and get this race back underway.
And what this sets up is a great sprint to the end of this race. You talked about Robusto has control of that restart. Connor Zilish, of course, has an opportunity now to be stacked up as he got up into the, let's see here, 9th position. And, of course, with the choose, I'm not sure how many rows you could potentially gain out of that, but there's certainly an opportunity there if he were to take it. And you know what? I wouldn't throw Brent Cruz, Matt Craig, a couple of very experienced drivers, and I wouldn't throw them entirely out of the picture yet either. This puts them right back in the fray as well. And even Dawson Sutton, who has been marching forward this entire night, this puts him right back into it.
Word is this is going to be a quickie yellow, so the pits are not going to be open for any of the competitors, which means we should see the choose cone pretty quickly here. So if these drivers need some time to go over what their plan is going to be when they hit that point on the front straightaway, they will not have much more time to ponder the decision that lies ahead. Doesn't look like it is going to be this time by, but I have to admit, Blake, I'm a little bit surprised at Matt Craig kind of running just about where he started. In fact, right where he started. He was someone who, just like Hopkins, when you see that name on the entry list in any form of stock car competition, the odds makers automatically have to start placing him in as one of the favorites. Kind of just been, he's avoided trouble. Just been riding in that fourth spot. 38 to go, perhaps could be saving something for the end. I think we're about to find out.
We may see if he does, and he's had a lot of success in cars competition at Hickory. Hasn't been in the pro late model, but in the super late model has 4 wins, 3 poles to his name, so knows how to get around Hickory Motor Speedway very well. And I think I'm kind of on board with you there that he's one of those names you see it. It's not an expectation, but you certainly know that he will contend for the win, and who knows, here in this late run, he may just have that up his belt, something to notch in his belt for Matt Craig.
Choose cone is on the racetrack. Robusto selects the inside, and it is going to be Hopkins trying the top side. See, Connor Zilish wants to be on the low lane. He'll in fact be just 2 cars behind his teammate Dawson Sutton. So Robusto and Hopkins going to make up your front row. Brent Cruz in 3rd, Matt Craig 4th. Dawson Sutton rounding out your top 5. Austin McDonald in 6th. Luke Baldwin having a very strong Cars Pro Late Model debut. Currently holding down the 7th spot when they come to the restart. Christian McKee in car 7 alongside an 8th. Connor Zilish is going to be in 9th position, while Caden Quapple rounds out your top 10 as the restart order. We're a lap away going back racing.
And I don't want to mention it too many times because, again, drivers would like to move on from some of their mistakes, but I think the response that we have seen tonight, not only in the qualifying lap itself, but in how Tristan McKee has handled himself in this race, been very impressive given the spin that he had in qualifying when he had it. Find himself up in 8th. I think that young man has done a great job here in this race.
Still an opportunity to improve on that. Isabella Robusto brings us into the KRC Power Steering restart zone. Round 1 winner, Hopkins trying to keep her honest on the outside lane in turns 1 and 2. Robusto by half a car length has the edge to 3.
It looks like she's going to be able to clear Hopkins. Oh, a big slide. That's Sutton, who was down onto the apron in 3 and 4. Looks like everything is good back there, but Hopkins is able to get back to the bottom, and he is all up almost into the fuel cell of Isabella Robusto off of turn 2. They still go side by side behind him for 4th. They're side by side now for the lead. Hopkins has a nose down low.
Hopkins has a bit of a cheering section just outside of our tower, trying to urge that number 15 to get up to and past Robusto for the top spot. Cruz 3rd, Sutton alongside Craig in number 54, and Connor Zilish is inside of Luke Baldwin, continuing his charge forward.
That is amazing right there, and almost caught up to his teammate in that car number 26, as Sutton still stuck in that side-by-side battle for the 5th spot. But my goodness here, I mean, Zilish, he could still win this race. It is well within the realm of possibility that could happen here with 34 laps to go. Needs a little bit of help to make that happen, but he's certainly just on a tear right now.
No matter the outcome, you have to be impressed with his ability to maintain composure and put on a charge up through the pack of this nature. Austin McDonald, the 13, next in line. Now down nearly to the apron is that of Zilish as he draws even with the door of car 13. A little bit of contact there off the corner. All the while, Sutton and Craig continue to bounce off one another in what is a race just up ahead of Zilish in what would be fourth.
McDonald trying to hold up the racetrack, and now Zilish going to get 2 for 1 in one corner. He has already found himself back into the top 5, side by side with Sutton, I should say, his teammate. He finds himself in 5th, and oh, by the way, Isabella Robusto still has her hands full trying to fend off Mike Hopkins.
That time, Hopkins had a great drive off the corner. Look at him close in as they exit the corner. This is where Hopkins gained a lot of ground last time through, holding that car tighter on the exit of turn 4, but not enough to draw alongside Robusto, who continues to hold the lead with Brent Cruz lurking.
Again, I think this is where experience is really going to help Robusto, and knowing if your car maybe isn't quite working as well as Hopkins, where you need to run on this racetrack to try to make that pass as difficult as possible. But you can see Hopkins trying a little bit of a wider line into 1, trying to keep that momentum off of turn 2. But I think this is where Robusto, having that experience at Hickory, is something that is going to help her once again. A little bit of lap traffic up the road, though. That's another factor in this race, that with 27 to go, you see number 49 right in front of them. But they're about half a track behind, but they will catch that traffic if we continue going here.
Zilish now up to 4th ahead of Matt Craig, the right side of your double box. Left side, you see Luke Maury, 3rd place finisher at Southern National Motorsports Park, brought on a new partnership for the start of this race. And the number 49 car of Maury is having a bit of a slide. In his Armed Society Meta Militia, number 49, he yields to the top 2. Robusto and Hopkins clear of Maury, who settles 3rd car in line between runner-up Hopkins and 3rd place runner Brent Cruz.
Again, clean racetrack in front of them for now. It's been about a car length that has separated your top 2 for the last handful of laps. Fastest car on the racetrack, shouldn't be a shocker, was Connor Zilish, who now is clear of the 4th spot. But again, he probably needs a yellow to get back in contention of this one, as he's about crossing the start-finish line and needs to make up 2.7 seconds when they were heading into turn 1 there.
The unfortunate reality for Zilish is Dawson Sutton continues to trade paint with Matt Craig, who moves him out of the way. Sutton gets a shot from behind from the super late model champion to fall back another spot and out of the top 5. Oh, you can see Sutton lit up the back tires. He desperately wants to get back to that 54 if he can.
And McDonald, I think, kind of followed him up into the outside while they're off in turn 2. These prolates, and again, continuing to see smoke or potential tire rub right there for Dawson Sutton, perhaps after that contact. Yeah, you can see it into the corner, a little bit of smoke trailing that 26 car.
Hopkins on the left side of your screen appears to have decided to settle in just a little bit to see if he could perhaps give it another go to get up to and around Robusto. That time, Hopkins lights up the backside of the race car off 4. That skate cost him just a little bit of breathing room, but he is still within a car length of Robusto as they race into turn 3.
You see Connor Zilish getting by the lap traffic, and perhaps even a little bit of contact there as he was trying to make his way by. Hopkins that last time, you could really see trying to wrap the bottom. But again, remember what Hopkins was able to do a little bit earlier in this race on those restarts, was able to go way up to the top. I wouldn't put that outside. That happening especially with the fact that, oh, by the way, getting bigger in the windshield of Isabella Robusto and Hopkins right here, lap traffic up the road.
One of the big things we've been talking about, Blake, time and time again, mental toughness. We know, we've seen Isabella Robusto and what she does to remain physically fit. But to look up in the rearview mirror and see a driver who just won the most recent Pro Late Model race, to navigate your way around lap traffic, to not get discouraged after the contact with Connor Zilish, Robusto is putting on a bit of a clinic in terms of being able to withstand pressure. Can she do it for 16 more laps?
That's going to be the question, and again, it's going to come down to who can get through this lap traffic a little bit better. You can see the number 24 goes out of the way. Robusto has to go to the high side, but letting them settle it amongst themselves as the other 24 machine gets out of the way, and Jaden Daniels to let these two fight it out with 17 to go.
Laps continuing to click off here, with Hopkins now trying to set up high. Robusto getting a little bit of pressure there as they come down the main straightaway. It appears as though the timing and scoring ticker has not clicked off the last couple of laps. We'll try to get that refreshed on our end, and we'll keep our eyes on the chief starter in Brandon Willard. Hopkins slides his way down to the inside as they go by Justin Whitaker to lap car.
Yeah, that seems like a timing and scoring thing in general, but you know what? They can run a couple laps past the distance, Eric, and that wouldn't be a problem with me with how this race is playing out right now. Isabella Robusto, though, really put a solid set of corners together, has made up a little bit of ground. Rusty Skews, you can see bottoming out right in front of them, but Robusto still holding strong.
Skews, the next car up ahead, as you mentioned. Robusto, though, doing a great job here. Now slides up the racetrack a little bit. Is it too much? Not quite. Chief starter Brandon Willard with open palms, 10 to go.
I was about to say, Brandon Willard always does his job great. He can tell when 10 laps to go is, so we'll count it manually here if we have to. Side by side for the race lead, and Rusty Skews lap traffic up the road.
Skews now slides up the racetrack, almost into Robusto as we hit the line. Hopkins sideways off of turn 2, and Robusto slams the door shut.
And Hopkins has to try to find another way around as Skews running the inside lane, and now 8 laps to go for Isabella Robusto to try to hang on.
Robusto with another good drive off the corner. Look at Hopkins, burp the back tires yet again on corner exit. Robusto with a little bit of clear track until the next car on the tail end of the lead lap. Behind them, Connor Zilish has caught Brent Cruz for the final spot on the podium. Leaders on the backstretch.
What this would mean for Isabella Robusto, who has been off to a terrible start in the late model stock car portion of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour through no fault of her own, but what it would mean for her to try to gain back that momentum after her great run in the pro late models. But Mike Hopkins side by side for the race lead, door to door here at Hickory with 6 laps to go.
Little bit of muscle, little bit of train and paint to decide this one. 5 to go at the line. Robusto leads by half a car length. Hopkins leans on the side of the 28 car as they work their way up to.
Doesn't slow either one of them again. They continue to rub down the back straightaway. 5 to go. It'll be 4 to go this time by Robusto using that outside lane as Hopkins another slide off of turn 4.
Incredible pro late model racing at Hickory. Hopkins sideways that time as he slides up in front of Robusto, who cuts underneath him. Robusto back inside. 3 to go.
Oh, some more contact made. They're still side by side. They may have lap traffic coming to the picture as well. Robusto back down low, trying to gain back some time on Mike Hopkins. It'll be 2 to go this time by.
2 laps to go. It's already been physical amongst the front 2. Who wants it most? Lap traffic ahead. Hopkins outside. Robusto falls about a half a car length behind, but dives to the bottom, coming to the white flag.
Oh, Hopkins with a big slide. Here comes Isabella Robusto. Lap traffic up the road. Robusto. Oh, no!
Terrible crash on the front straightaway after Robusto caught the backside of Mike Hopkins' car and slammed the inside wall. Boy, Robusto came off of turn number 4 and caught the left rear of Mike Hopkins' car and made heavy contact with what is a movable protective barrier there on the inside wall. The car that dominated most of this race is destroyed, but Robusto with the window net down to indicate that she is okay. Also, as Robusto is going to be climbing from the car, keep our eyes peeled down trackside to see if everyone down there on the inside of the pit wall is in fact okay. After what was a spectacular race up at the front of the pack, red flag is going to be displayed to the leaders as they will be stopping in turns 3 and 4. Again, Robusto is in fact okay. It looks as though there may be some work to be done to clean up the scene there down on the infield. Again, once we receive official word that everybody down there trackside is okay, we will pass that along to you as the rescue team is on the scene. Robusto, though, fortunately out of the race car and okay. You see the left front wheel of that car completely detached after the vicious impact that Robusto took down on the front straightaway to put this field at a standstill. Just a handful of laps to go.
Just tough racing up at the front of the field between those two. Just a classic short track battle as Isabella Robusto and Mike Hopkins trying to give everything she had. You could see Isabella climbing out of her race car, just coming to the white flag and a couple of laps to go.
The unbelievable element of this here is you have such an incredible race that has seen lead changes among lead changes. We talk about the pro late model history at this racetrack and how some of the events have been dominated by a single participant or a single competitor. This one was the polar opposite, with lead changing, battling up front and trading of paint. See it come to an end in this capacity for that of Isabella Robusto is certainly unfortunate for that driver and that team. And again, we are awaiting official word as far as anybody who may have been down trackside. And once we have additional updates and information, we will pass it along to those of you who are here with us at the racetrack, as well as those of you who are watching along on Flow. We will also wait to receive word on the fate of this race, as right now the red flag remains out at this portion of the program. We see the removal of Isabella Robusto's car taking place down there in turn number 1, but there will be some additional work to be done to the inside retaining wall at the end of the front stretch before we are in a position to get this race back underway.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that barrier knocked out of the way after contact that Isabella Robusto had with it. And you can see damage as it'll be pulled back on the record.
So as Robusto's car goes off on the hook, we're going to step aside just for a moment here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. We'll be back with more racing here on Flow. Back here at the Hickory Motor Speedway, where, as you can see, the red flag remains out after a hard crash on the front straightaway while racing for the lead between Mike Hopkins and Isabella Robusto. Took an ugly turn at the end of the front straightaway. Good news to report to those of you watching on Flow or those of you here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. The report trackside is both driver Isabella Robusto as well as a photographer who's standing down there trackside near the scene of the accident are okay. Now, Isabella is going to remain here at the racetrack. However, we are transporting the photographer to a local medical facility for further evaluation. That is the official update from the Cars Tour directly, and we are very relieved to pass that along after that was a vicious impact and a very precarious situation that we saw there for a few moments down trackside. I want to tip my cap to everybody involved here as far as the safety team, the crew members who arrived on scene immediately to assess the situation and help where they could, as well as the recovery team who got Isabella Robusto's car off the racetrack and attended to her as well after what was close to a driver's side impact on that inside retaining wall. So, again, both Isabella Robusto as well as the gentleman who was down trackside, okay. Isabella will remain here at Speedway with us, while the photographer will be transported to a local medical facility for further evaluation. And that is the update in which we are very relieved to pass along to all of you. As far as the race, we are awaiting official word on the restart proceedings. All would point towards a potential green-white checkered. However, due to the repair that would have to take place down trackside, we'll wait until we speculate any further as far as how this Pro Late Model race will remain or unfold. So we'll keep our eyes peeled to the officials who have been working diligently. And Blake, I know for a few moments there that was pretty intense for several reasons. And I also want to say that as someone who's privy to be able to listen to some of the line of communication that unfolds behind the scenes, hats off to everybody, top to bottom, track Cars Tour, for being able to remain cool, calm, collected, and composed in a situation that looked quite frightening for a moment.
Yes, certainly so. And again, there's medical teams involved. There's a track personnel here at Hickory Motor Speedway that are doing their jobs exactly as they are trained to do. Of course, some work being done on that wall to try to put it back in the position it once was for pit road and the safety down there. So just a tip of the cap, I think, as you mentioned, to everybody here whose responsibility it is to keep these cars safe, keep these drivers safe, keep these crews safe, as they have all acted accordingly in how they are trained to do. And hopefully, again, we'll await for official word on exactly the happenings of this race. Again, you can see Mike Hopkins as well as the rest of the field parked here in turns 3 and 4, as we are still under a red flag condition. So those two drivers battling for the lead. The official lap counter, at least on the scoreboard here at Hickory, says lap 98, which of course would be just a couple shy of the 100 scheduled distance here for the Pro Late Model portion of the Tough Shed 250. But I think, again, an extraordinary tip of the cap to all of the safety workers here at Hickory Speedway, the track crew, the medical personnel, and everybody who was able to do their job and make sure the situation was handled as best as it could be.
So as you can see, the field remains under the red flag. We will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the rules that will unfold throughout the Cars Tour season. This is a true and legitimate red flag condition. Now, you may see a few times throughout the year, I believe we actually saw it once at Southern National, if my memory would serve me correctly, a situation dubbed a red-yellow, where the pits would be open, damaged vehicles or cars that were on pit road would be able to be serviced. However, under this condition, especially giving respect to all of the activity that was taking place at the end of the pit lane, it is best to just freeze everything, stop the field in 3 and 4, and then once the all-clear is given, we'll see the direction in which this race may be headed. Right now, there's been no indication that this race is over just yet, which, you know, as hard as it may be to transition back to some of the storylines of the race itself, this is exactly what the doctor ordered for Connor Zilish. I mean, he as right now, unofficially, he is scored in about the second spot. The lap car of Rusty Skews, as you mentioned, kind of sandwiched there in between. But for Zilish, this is a chance for a comeback to be complete should we get this restarted.
If he is parked there in the second position, again, don't know if perhaps there was some passing there under the caution. Of course, you could see Rusty Skews is the second car that is listed, or at least parked here in turns 3 and 4. Of course, he is multiple laps down in this race, so would not be scored in that second position. So, of course, we'll await official word if he would be running in the second or the third position if we get things back rolling here at Hickory Motor Speedway. But certainly so, his drive through the field was certainly something to be admired tonight in this pro late model field. Of course, Brent Cruz right behind him, maybe in second, third. We'll again await for official word on all of those happenings here, and of course update you with what the officials decided in terms of the outcome of this race. There's still some work being done on that wall to again make sure that it is able to withstand another potential impact. So there's still some work there being done by the safety crews to make sure that wall is sturdy and in the correct position for all these crews down there on pit road. So still some work being done as we sit under red flag conditions here in the Tough Shed 50.
One of the key talking points that we had in our preparation for these races, both the pro late models and the late model stocks, is this is the first race in what is going to be a bit of a tough stretch. Now, granted, we have next weekend off per se, but it's less than 2 weeks' time before our next foray on May 5th, Friday, so mark your calendars now, at a Speedway. Then we have our Wednesday event at North Wilkesboro, about a week and a half after that, on Wednesday, May 17th. And then we'll move ahead to Memorial Day weekend on May 27th at Tri-County. With that in mind, it is important to kind of acknowledge and, in some sense, sympathize with these race teams about all the effort is going to take to try to get into a position to get these cars back repaired and race ready, especially those who have sustained significant damage here throughout the night so far. We hope that pretty much comes to a stop with the most recent incident, but we may still have 2 laps to go in this pro late model race. 150 laps still to go for the late model stock cars, part of the Tough Shed 250. Also want to take this chance to tip our cap to our amazing and hardworking production team, everybody who has been manning cameras around the racetrack, setting things up, our team down in the truck. This is the third time that we've had a chance to work with them directly. Absolutely love and admire every single person who is on our team, the sights, the sounds, the shots, the information, and the collaboration that it takes to put these races on, as well as all of our partners across the Flow platform. It has been an absolute honor, privilege, and dream to be able to be paired with everyone involved. Blake, you as well, Jacqueline Drake, who's at Bowman Gray Stadium, kicking off the Madhouse season with our buddy Matthew Dillner, and of course James Pike, who is down trackside. This is a lot of fun, even on nights where things get a little bit haywire, such as tonight, and there's a lot of people that make it possible, and we cannot thank them all enough.
Absolutely. I echo all the sentiments you're bringing out, Eric, and of course a pleasure to work with you up here in the Flow Racing booth here in the Solid Rock Carriers Cards Forum, as we still await word on everything that will be happening in terms of the outcome of this race. Again, you see Mike Hopkins in that first position, and of course we will get official word on anything else as far as the rest of the positions on this grid. As we were talking about earlier, one of the best finishes that was shaping up to be both in that pro late model, but you also got to think back to the last chance race we ran just a couple of hours ago. It was only 15 laps, but a lot of what you saw in that battle for the lead here in the pro late models was exactly what was happening here in the late model stock, side by side, and just tremendous short track racing that we know Hickory Motor Speedway is also accustomed to putting on for many of the fans that have decided to grace us with their presence here at Hickory Motor Speedway. And I know they said the opening crowd here at Hickory was the largest that it had had in over 20 years as far as opening night, and I would love to hear official word from some point at Kevin Piercy that potentially that we may have bested that crowd tonight.
So it looks as though we are going to be presented an opportunity here with a green flag finish, and I cannot believe the work the track crew has put in to repair that section of wall at the end of the front straightaway. While we're giving accolades, we'll pass them along to those hardworking men and women, because my goodness, that was a quick get back together and a quick cleanup, if you will, after the crash that unfolded on the main straightaway. So it's going to present what should be a green-white checker, which now we're going to shift back into full race mode, and I think with all of the energy and excitement that this race has had up to this point, I would not be surprised if we're not done trading paint, I would not be surprised if we're not done swapping donuts on the side of race cars. I would not be surprised if we see someone off the front row end up in victory lane, as physical as this race has been. And for Connor Zilisch, the chance at a comeback after spinning out of the race lead with 55 laps to go. He had just over a half of this race's distance to get back up towards the front. He's going to have a shot at a trophy.
That he is, and just really interested to see here the decision for Mike Hopkins and Connor Zilisch as far as this restart cone is concerned. You'd have to imagine that, of course, Zilisch is going to go anywhere that Hopkins does not go. But even though in those last couple of laps, in that battle with Robusto, he was willing to go up to the top lane, even if Isabella was perhaps not challenging for position on the entry to the corner. So I think, of course, if you're Zilisch, you go low, you go high, you go wherever Mike does not go. But we see the decision right there. Hopkins goes low, Zilisch goes high.
Blake, I'll give credit to you. Very early in this race, you mentioned this track is conducive to allowing drivers the option to pick either lane and have a chance. We don't see that at every race. However, before we turn our attention back over to the restart, let's hear from the driver who was involved in that very scary wreck on the front straightaway. Isabella Robusto is standing by with James Pike.
Isabella, first and foremost, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Second, what did you see from your perspective?
I think I just had him trapped behind the lap car, and he tried to clear himself before he got trapped, and got into my front tire, and something broke, and it just shot straight to the wall. So I hit it for the guys. We definitely had the car to win.
Most important thing, though, Isabella Robusto, okay.
Great to see, great to hear. We talked about her mental fortitude. Now, shift focus to late model stock. For the rest of these pro late model drivers, their focus is on these last two laps. Mike Hopkins trying to go back-to-back to start the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Pro Late Model Tour. Connor Zilisch trying to complete the comeback. Brent Cruz and company trying to play the role of the spoiler. Into the KRC Power Steering restart zone they come. A green, white checker.
We saw it early in the race. Zilisch got a great launch off that high side. He gets it off of turn 2, but it looks like they're at least going to call off the restart for now. So yellow, yellow, yellow once again as the restart is called off. And honestly, it looks like there may be a car that almost has a flat tire. I think in McDonald, that white number 13 was somewhat slow, and I think he may have had a flat tire.
Coming off of turn 2, there were several cars that faded out all the way to the outside retaining wall. McDonald was one of them. See him there in the King Racing number 13 car. And I believe you're right. He definitely does have a right front tire down after all those cars kind of washed out wide. And I didn't see who the first car was that made such a mistake, but they pretty much led the Army off the cliff because everybody followed in the tire tracks to kiss the concrete. And McDonald will have to come down for service. And we will have to do this once more. It's very interesting to see the launch that Hopkins got on that restart. Not sure if that was perhaps the exact reason for the callback, if a warning has been administered to the driver, the number 15, just yet. But Zilisch seemed more motivated to get in line and behind the 15, give himself a lap and a half to try to size him up, or at least try to edge him out on corner exit with just what would have been coming to the white flag. But we'll re-rack him and try it again.
We will, and of course you don't see the cone put out, so it is a call on that restart. Perhaps Hopkins got a little bit of an early jump right there just before the KRC Power Steering restart zone. I believe would be the call right there for Mike Hopkins. But again, Zilisch, we talked about in the opening, he got a great launch off that top side to start this race. Now, of course, track conditions have completely changed. They've been sitting under a red flag for quite a long time. So a lot has changed for Zilisch. But if he can just contest and stay to the outside of Mike Hopkins, we saw how strong that car was when he was side by side those first couple of laps with Brent Cruz, and how much he can try to fend off as much as possible. I think this upper lane's probably gotten better throughout the night. So if he can just stay side by side with Hopkins into turn 1, I think it's game on from then.
What a day it has been for all these drivers running in the front few rows here. Hopkins, of course, pretty much been in contention all day. We documented Zilisch's comeback after the spin while leading. Brent Cruz had pace at the beginning of this race to battle door-to-door for the race lead. Matt Craig, kind of like a snake in the grass, just kind of sitting there waiting, biding his time. Hasn't shown top 3 pace just yet in this race. And this is where it's going to matter most. And how about Katie Hettinger? First lap, off turn 2, pancakes the wall, has to battle what could be a bit of an injured race car. She's trying to round out the top 5 to continue what has been a strong start in her 2023 Pro Late Model campaign here in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour. Second attempt here at a green-white checker with Hopkins and Dillish bringing us down for a 2-lap shootout.
And that restart looks like it was good, and Dillish got all of it that he needed. They stay side by side, door to door. Looks like Brent Cruz going to try to look 3 wide into turn 3 as they're crashing further back in the pack.
3 wide for the race lead and a hard collision on the back straightaway after one car gets turned into the outside wall. I believe that was the number 43 of Nick Loden. The other car that we see right here, the 44 out of Wisconsin, is Michael Litchfeld, who has also destroyed the front end of his race car. See the number 43 there climbing out of the race car. Justin Whitaker has just gone by with significant damage on the front end of his car. That is, in fact, Loden's machine. When we kicked off our race at Southern National, Loden was in a very bright yellow entry. Joshua Horneman, the other 43 in the field, has just passed us on the front stretch, so positive identification confirmed there. Litchfeld also going to need the assistance of the wrecker after yet another multi-car crash slows this field after what was about to be a 3-wide potential bonsai move by Cruz. Let's go back and see what happened here. You see Loden on the bottom there, about 6-car inside lane at number 43. And it's Litchfeld who gets way wide, slaps the wall, just as many have done before him. Caden Quapple bucking like a Bronco through the middle, and Loden gets hooked head-on to the backstretch fence.
And I feel like the left rear tire on that 44 was down. I may be wrong looking at that replay, but I think that's what I saw. See it one more time here, going through the corner. You can see the 15 of Baldwin is really loose down there on the bottom, but yeah, that 44 is already having an issue. He's way up the racetrack. Maybe wrong diagnosis there on that flat tire, but he gets in the outside wall, pushes off the corner, and nowhere for Caden Quapple to go, and tough for that race car.
Fortunately, at that point, if you're Quapple, you see Whitaker there on the right side of your picture in the 44 with the rear end deck lid ripped off his car. If you're Quapple at that point, you got a car that's going up to the fence in front of you. You've really got nowhere to go. You try to shoot the gap in the middle, and by that time, Loden was only anticipating one car to his outside driver's right, and that is a hard shot. Look at a couple of cars there, Blake. I saw you pointing out a few of them that did an amazing job getting through that carnage.
How many times, we're in our second race, how many times are we going to have to call out Brett Suggs missing a wreck by just mere inches? He missed one at Southern National Motorsports Park. He's missed 2 tonight. He checked up earlier for that big stack up in 3 that he was directly behind. Everybody behind him gets in it, and he just missed that one as well. I mean, I don't know. I know Brett Suggs is a very avid iRacer, and I don't know, maybe some of those reflexes helping him out a little bit because, boy, he has missed a lot of crashes here today. Got to give a nod to the spotter stand out there and wherever his spotter is because, man, he's doing a fantastic job.
See the Wisconsin native, Michael Litchfeld, being put on the record. What was his first Cars Pro Late Model start? Fortunately, second time tonight. We are under the red flag. This time the field stopped on the back straightaway, allowed the wrecker service here to tend to 2 stricken cars that have not been able to drive away from the scene at the entrance of turn number 3. Battle scars aplenty. Pretty much every car that you see in your picture has some sort of scuff mark, donut, minimal damage perhaps. What has been quite the heavyweight title fight. We're not done yet.
No, we're not. We're going to have to re-rack them and at least try to get going once again, once all this cleanup is out. But again, the restart that Connor Zilish got was just incredible there, and that's exactly what he would have wanted. Then you have Brent Cruz there, 3 wide for the lead at Hickory. Is not something that you see very often, and he was able to make his way down there. And props to the top three. They were able to figure all that out while all that carnage was going on behind them, but well managed by those three. It'll still be Mike Hopkins, your leader, as we'll check in down on pit road with James Pike.
Down here with Justin Whitaker. Justin, what did you see from your perspective in that incident?
I just saw smoking cars everywhere, and I locked it up, got turned around backwards, just along for the ride. Started having motor problems towards the end, so just pulled it in then versus staying out there and trying to gain a few positions. But thought a few positions could help maybe later in the year, so my fault on that one.
Did you pull any confidence from the pace that you had in this race? Did you like what you had underneath you while you were out there?
Yeah, my car's great. Jay Fogelman and them, they do a great job with my car and take care of it. The drivers just got to do a little better job working on his line and getting the hang of this track. It's a very tough track, and it's no place like it. So I'll live to see another day.
The opportunity to come back more in the future, I'm sure. But for now, Justin Whitaker's night is done at the Tough Shed 250.
Just another victim in what has been a wild night. And I hate to admit this, but in gauging the reaction and responses for some of the Pro Late Model drivers, this was a bit of a fear. We mentioned the fact that a lot of these drivers who have not committed to run in other races or other Pro Late Model events, patiently waiting for the opportunity to get back out under the Cars Tour spotlight in an event such as this. And Blake, every now and then you have this, whether it be on a touring level, on the local level. I know that it was a rough night for your home track at Ace Speedway last night. Judging by what I've seen on social media, it was a rough day down at Talladega today for the Xfinity Series. So, it's not every race that is going to be like this, but when you try to put a gauge or get a read on what people's energy levels are, what people are kind of feeling, how eager are drivers at a certain point, you oftentimes do find yourself in scenarios where it is the wrecker service crew who ends up doing a lot of the work the night is done.
Yes, they do. And again, the one thing that was just so important to so many of these drivers, I know we touched on it earlier when Kyle Campbell had his incident off turn 4, is just at this specific part of the season with so many races coming up back-to-back, pretty much every other weekend, it seems, over the next month that we'll be racing, if not almost every week. If you're going to tear your car up, you would have rather have done it at Southern National or at Florence, where you had a lot of time to work and repair your car. This is one of the more difficult junctures in the season to have to work on it. And I think, I heard a good quote off the Big Time Auto Racing podcast a little bit when I was listening to it yesterday. It's easier to replace ball joints, or it's easier to replace a fender brace. It is not easy to replace a front clip. And of course, you're fixing your car, you can't exactly work on making it faster. I know even Layden Huffman, who I was talking to a little bit earlier, talking about his racing here in the late model stocks at Hickory Motor Speedway. He said, I've hardly been able to work on my car, just with all the bad luck that we've had this year being involved and getting damaged. It's been tough to work on making that car better, whereas you're just hoping to have it ready for the next time you come out. So difficult to end, at least at this portion, to have that happen to some of these competitors.
As you can see, we are back behind the pace vehicle, and the yellow flag is back out here at the Hickory Motor Speedway, where we will be getting set for yet another green-white checkered attempt for the second Pro Late Model race of 2023. Full battery caution has been out several times here tonight. We've seen the red flag several times as well. But the one underlying variable still remains: who will be the driver who presents themselves in Edelbrock victory lane when these last 2 laps are complete? See Nick Loden, his car being brought back to the pit area, the near vicinity of Isabella Robusto's badly damaged car after her crash on the front stretch. With the Jews going out on the front straightaway, no surprise, the Rackley War Racing number 25 of Connor Zilish elects the high side, as he has done the last 2 restarts. The one before, though, Blake, Hopkins tried to stay in the power, washed up a little bit wide, stayed off of Zilish, but opened the door enough for Brent Cruz to think about it. See if it happens again this time.
Well, he went in about the middle part of the KRC power steering restart zone last time, and if Zilish can time it right, and he's been really good at this the last couple of restarts, having that longer radius around the corner. If you can time it well, you can essentially get a run up almost to Mike Hopkins there if you can time it well. So we'll see if Zilish can do that. And again, for Zilish, you have to hope that you can hang out on the outside. But if you're Brent Cruz, you want the exact same thing to happen so you can repeat that move and try to go 3 wide into turn 3.
Matt Gregg all the while riding in 4th. We will try it again. Hopkins, Zilish, your front row for the restart. About 3 wide behind him in the midfield. We're back underway. Zilish is keeping pace with Hopkins here in turn 1 yet again. There's that slide from Hopkins as they make contact entering turn number 3, and the battle for the lead is on with the white flag in the air.
Zilish going to have a run on the high side, and how wide is Hopkins going to run him? We saw Zilish was strong on the top side earlier. Oh, contact!
Hopkins trying to muscle his way through. Brent Cruz into the back of Hopkins, shoves him up the racetrack. Here they come to the flag. Hopkins crashes at the finish line and wins his 2nd race to start the year. Oh my goodness, what a finish. Tristan McKee into the outside wall after the checkered flag. Hopkins with scuff marks all over his race car, and he is burning down the house in turn 1.
And he's not even going to bother doing the cool down lap. He's going to burn it down here for the fans on the front straightaway already. What a job he did hanging on to that race car after that late race contact. And again, you have to feel for Zilish, who was there on the high side and checked up to preserve his race car and keep from getting in the outside wall, but unfortunately he will have to settle for 3rd. But Mike Hopkins, what an effort to get back to Edelbrock victory lane.
Margin of victory, 41 thousandths of a second. After 2 red flags, a couple of big pileups that tested everybody here at the racetrack tonight, the flight back home to Herman, Maine is going to include another winner's trophy on the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour Pro Late Model ranks. And that is one ecstatic veteran racer who has so far gone 2 for 2 on the Pro Late Model slate. We're not sure how often we'll see Mike Hopkins, but we know that every time he unloads, he will be a threat to win, and he proved it here tonight. We'll toss it down to James Pike, who is standing at Edelbrock victory lane with a very energetic Mike Hopkins for the 2nd time this season.
Eric, that may be the fastest I've ever seen anyone come straight to victory lane as Mike Hopkins climbs out of the car. Winner in the Pro Late Models at the Tough Shed 250. Walks around and gets congratulations from the folks at Port City Race Cars and lots of congratulations from the team. But Mike, so he gets a little bit more here. How on earth did you hang on to that thing in the last half lap to win this thing?
Just digging. I've never got one here, and I wanted it bad, and it just I didn't want to see that caution at the end, but just can't thank these Port City guys enough, and Wes Weeder for coming on, help us with the tires. Can't thank him enough, and everybody. Ticket Graphics, Stayers Racing Engines, PFC Brakes, ProFab Headers, High Tower Transmission, just everybody that makes this possible. I've wanted one a lot simple way here, and can't thank all these fans, and I hope that was a show at the end.
What makes a win here at Hickory so meaningful to you? Why does it have so much value?
Well, just such a cool place, right? You know, it's the heart of the NASCAR country, and everybody knows Gary Crooks owns Port City Race Cars, and he's been racing here, been down in North Carolina for 28 years, and he's never got a win here, so I'm pretty proud to get him his first win.
I know the plan wasn't necessarily to go full season with the cars sort of start the year, but you've got 2 wins out of the first 2 races. Is that something you might have to reconsider now?
Well, we're going to race it race by race. Every time I've raced the championships, it's bit me. So this tour is pretty cool, you know, to see Jeff Burton and Dale Earnhardt Jr. here and all these fans and 70-something cars in the pits. I can't thank everybody that helps me and every single one of them people that's in them stands.
Mike Hopkins, plenty of big wins in his career. This one, another one to add to the list. Victorious in the Pro Late Models, Tough Shed 250 at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Thanks, Pike. And, you know, what does competing in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, Pro Late Models, Late Model Stocks, what does it mean to racers and drivers? It's the energy that we just saw out of Mike Hopkins right there. We know the long distance that he has traveled. You mentioned he's turning back around to head home at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow to fly back to the airport in Portland, Maine. but he knows this is the place to be. This is where you want to test your talents. Sometimes you got to get elbows up. Sometimes you have races that unfold in a unique fashion or a unique way like we did here tonight. But he did everything in his power to back up the result that he debuted at Southern National Motorsports Park. And I hope he's got a check bag big enough to get that thing home with him tomorrow morning, because that is quite the trophy. I also hope he's got a change of clothes as well with the champagne celebration down there trackside after he bested Brent Cruz at the line by 41 thousandths of a second. And the incredible comeback charge of Connor Zilisch came up 2 spots shy after a remarkable drive up through the pack to round out your top 3 finishers. With Hopkins and company still down there celebrating a win, we still have 150 laps to go for the late model stock car portion of our program, part of Tough Shed 250 here on what has already been a night to remember at Hickory.
I love that shot that we had a couple of moments ago of Connor Zilisch's car. 3, 4, I think I counted 4 donuts on the side of that car. That is all the battle scars. And you can see Connor Zilisch right there, walks into victory lane. Yep, there's the shot right there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I think I may have been right on the nail right there with 4. But nevertheless, just an incredible drive from him. And, love seeing that. That's very commonplace amongst these Cars Tour competitors, that in victory lane, a lot of guys who are up at the front, trading paint, rubbing fenders, doing all that hard racing, and yet they can get out of the car, shake some hands, and say, you know what, that was a lot of fun.
Especially after the night that Zilisch had. If I were him, granted, we analyzed the incident with 55 to go and kind of dubbed it to be a bit of a racing deal, if you will, the accordion effect of the lap traffic. But the wherewithal of that young man, even after the night that he had, rip-roaring his way up through the pack, bouncing off the front runners there at the end, comes home in third, and instead of walking over to the truck to pout about it, he goes to victory lane and congratulates the driver who wins. That's the type of sportsmanship you want to see, not just on this level of motorsports, but all motorsports.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to think he's got to probably change a little bit, get a little bite to eat, and he's got 150 more laps to run. So
didn't even think of that. Well, Hopkins and company are going to continue to celebrate this one for quite some time. As we mentioned, Zilisch was down there as well. Late model stocks on deck. Continue on with our racing action here at Hickory. And boy, qualifying was intense. Last chance race, intense. Obviously, this pro late model feature was wild. I can't quite tell what is going to take place when we have 32 late model stocks out here. I'm gonna shoot the gap and call it a hybrid of intensity, insanity, and entertainment, somewhere in the mix in between there. I know that's not going out on a limb, if you would, but still a lot to be decided there. And in that charge to the checkers, there was so much going on. With Cruz down to the bottom, a close run to the finish. After the checkers, I saw Tristan McKee bouncing off the wall, but the driver on the other end of that spectacular finish, Brent Cruz, the runner-up tonight, standing by with Pike.
Brent, what did you see from your perspective and all that coming to the checkers?
Oh, man, that was wild. Definitely thought I had a shot there, and we were really close. Thought I was going to get him there, and he just did a good job of holding me tight. Then we almost wrecked the thing. It was super exciting. I just want to thank everybody at Toyota Racing and Gearin, Street Top Apple Juice, all my supporters, and everybody at Donnie Wilson for giving me a great race car. Led about 25 laps there. I think we had a really good short run car. I think on the long run, we just fell off at the end there. We need to be a little bit better, but we had a great race car, and I just want to say congratulations.